Hello and welcome to Wayports Racing League Season 3, and boy do we have a story to tell. This is the first round of the new season, the third instalment of Wayports Racing League at Aston Club Reversed. You're watching Division 1 in Live for Speed. I'm Peter Butcher, and today I'm joined by a new voice to the commentary box for Wayports Racing League. It's Travis Mellinger. Travis, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Good day to you, Peter. It's been a while since I've done one of these with you. I've enjoyed being out of the house some, but I'm excited to do this again with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. We need to go over a few things before we head to the track for the qualifying session, which is underway. We have another 10-round season to look forward to. Today we're at Aston Club Reverse, and the end of the season will feature Kyoto Ring National again, but in the reverse direction. A little bit of a change up this season in terms of what happens in the race day. We have an hour of qualifying, of which we will cover the final 10 minutes at 1 o'clock UTC. And then the race will begin at 2 UTC for 45 minutes roughly. So a much longer format than we're used to in Wayports Racing League. And around this short 3.1 kilometer, 1.9 Aston Club reversed configuration, that means we get 31 laps, Travis, with a mandatory pit stop. So this is going to be a lot for the drivers to think about, especially in the XFG, which is the car that we're using again this season. The small little hatchback with a 1.3 litre inline-4 front engine, front-wheel drive with 115 brake horsepower, weighing in just under a ton. Travis, you're pretty experienced with the XFG and Aston Club. What about 45 minutes around here? What do you think the drivers have got to come up against?
So this track is deceptively difficult, actually. It looks a little bit like an oval. There's a few, long, straight, kind of fast sections with a couple tight turns at the end. It's really easy to lose your concentration during a long race here because you've got these long straights where you can kind of let your mind wander a little bit, relax. But to be quick around here, it's all about these two corners at the very end. This hairpin corner with the weird bend into the braking zone and then back over the curb to go down the front stretch, and then the hairpin at the other end of the track too. You have to be really careful on the brakes, really precise on the brakes, because that's where all the time is. As we see one car go flying off in the grass right here. You have to be very precise in these two spots on the track in order to get all the time that you could find.
Yeah, it's a good opener for the season. The drivers should be pretty experienced at this track, but I think this is in fact the first time we've done it in the reverse direction. As you see, Valentina for the McLean Library. Last season, Valentina and Mariano were driving for the Interlink France team, but they've kind of rebranded it and they're now driving for the McLean Library. So let's bring you up to speed with what happened towards the end of the last season of Wayports Racing League just a few weeks ago. In the Drivers' Championship, it was, in fact, Andy for Strings. Strings has now been renamed to Vertex Classrooms, or rather the team has changed branding to Vertex Classrooms. Andy and Santiago driving for that new outfit. Andy took the win in the driver's standings ahead of Mariano by, well, a tiny amount. 6 points in the end. Then it was Santiago for Strings in third, well-deserved third. Ian for Bundles in fourth. Valentina fifth, Felipe sixth, Eduardo seventh, William eighth, Arthur ninth, and Wellington for Interlink Argentina in 10th. There are a few team changes other than the Interlink France and Strings team, but we'll bring you up to speed with those as we go through the race. Over in the the teams championship, it's a similar story. At the front, it was Strings who took the crown away from Interlink France to take the win in the teams championship as well as the drivers championship. Bundles sit P3, Interlink Brazil P4, and Interlink Argentina finished P5. Yeah, none of those teams now exist in Wayports Racing League, so there's a lot to learn for you guys. But yeah, let's get back to the action and see who is topping the timing sheets as we head into the final 5 minutes of qualifying, Travis.
Yeah, I'm watching other cars go around the track. Andy still has the benchmark at just under a minute 24, 1:23.97. Been watching him go around. Been watching him go around for a few laps now. Has been close to improving a few times, but hasn't really found the time. No improvements behind him, and he's pretty well clear of Mariano in second. I think this is probably going to stand, but still about 5 minutes left. Looks like about 5 minutes and 10 seconds left in qualifying here. So. I don't know that anybody's going to touch him, and I don't know that he really needs to work that hard at improving, but he's still going around. He's taking a flyer out of the last corner right now, took a wide entry so he could get a nice broad exit out to the right side of the racetrack, and now come down the front stretch to start a hot lap. See how he does. Here he is coming across the line now onto the left side of the racetrack. He'll keep it nice and tight over here on the left and then sail it over the curb as tight as he can. He wants to get as close as he can to these tires. Misses the curb by quite a bit. He wants to get over the curb there and try to brake in a straight line. Still gets it pretty tight on the apex. Doesn't use as much road on the exit, but again, you want to keep it pretty tight here. Keep it nice and tight to this curb to shorten the track as much as possible. This is one of those long runs that we talked about at the very top of the broadcast. Now left over the curb here. Keep the car nice and smooth out to the right side of the racetrack. He'll want to just clip the grass here and get out to the tire barrier so he can sail the car over the curbs here and just miss the tires on the inside. And he disconnected as we were enjoying that lap. We'll see if we get another one. All right, now we are looking at Mariano. Just came out of the final corner. Just came out of turn one. Now going down the back straight of this racetrack on the right side of the road. As I was saying a minute ago, he's going to want to just clip the grass here to get the car nice and wide. Leaves plenty of room over the tires, dabs the brake. Does a pretty good job getting down to the curb. Nice and tight over the curb there on the right side of the racetrack. Out to the left side, just touches the grass there. On board with it now. He's going to brake hard out over the curbing if he can, just touches it, gets the car slowed down, nice and tight, late apex, opens up the steering to the right side of the road. He probably used a little bit more curb there on the right, but that looked like a pretty good exit. And now he keeps the car tight on the right side, going to straight line the car over to the left side of the road here, the green curbing inside the rumble strips. And he'll hold the car tight to the left side of the road to shorten it as much as possible and come down to the start-finish line. See how good this lap is. Does not improve, still on a 24:40, but a pretty tidy-looking lap from him. And now he's back to the pits.
Yeah, thanks for that, Travis. Mariano starting the way he left the season 2, being just behind Andy on the timesheets. There you can see 0.4 of a second separate those two. But there is still another opportunity for a lap or two for Mariano. He is still out there running a 1:24.4, his best. But yeah, can he start the season the way he wants to on pole position? It looks like Andy's going the right way at the moment. He still has a lap in hand. He can still set one more lap after this one.
Watching him now come through the back part of the racetrack, he gets much closer to the wall there to try to open up the entry as much as possible. He used a lot of steering input on the left-hander into that very fast chicane. Looks like he's warming up his tires now. I think he's about to come around for one last flying lap. You can see him sawing at the steering wheel there, trying to get some heat in the front tires. And here he comes. Really wide entry into this final corner to straighten it up as much as possible. He'll carry as much speed as he can into the first corner. See if he can't improve his already benchmark time, good enough for pole position. Looks like he's out here for pride now, just trying to find a faster lap.
Yeah, it's a good lap, but it's not an improvement for Andy. It looks like as the clock ticks down, he'll have 30 seconds left. So he will manage to get one more lap in, but will Mariano? He won't. So this will be Mariano's final lap, Travis. And it looks like him and Andy are going to be the two drivers battling it out for pole position in the dying stages of this new 1-hour qualifying session in Wayports Racing League Season 3. Santiago is a little way off his teammate, a second almost. Just under a second.
Mariano's trying really hard. He was pretty good through the first corner and then used as much curb as he possibly could coming through the first corner. Used a lot of steering input trying to get through the chicane there, so I'm not sure how quick that will be. I'm watching Andy on board now while we have Mariano on the stream.
He's aborted his run.
Oh, he has. You're right. Andy looked pretty good through the first half of the racetrack, but now went a little bit wide in the final corner. This time, I don't expect will be any quicker, but it looks like he'll finish the lap.
Yeah, we'll see. And then we'll be able to get the full running order for the first round of the new season, which is exciting to say. We had a very, very exciting season finale. I hope that the momentum carries into this one. Yep, you're right. Andy did not improve, Travis, and that will be that. Valentina will be the final car to cross the line. He is just heading down to start finish now, past all these brand new ad banners we've got here today around the track, across start finish, and no improvement in lap time. So P4, but a good P4 there for Valentina for the McLean Library. So Travis, I'm just going to quickly do a rundown of the qualifying order for today's race. And it is as so. Andy for Vertex starts on pole position. The current reigning champion, both driver and team's champion of Wayports Racing League Season 2, followed by Mariano on the front row for McLean Library. Then it's Santiago for Vertex on P3, Valentina for McLean Library P4. Ian is driving for, what team's Ian driving for this year? Let's have a look. Ian is driving for Lilium. I don't think he got that memo just yet, so he's in P5. Eduardo is driving for Bank of Wayports, so is Wellington. And then Arthur is driving for a new team, Atrium. There we are. So that is our 8 cars that will start the 45-minute race around Aston Club Reversed in just a few minutes' time, Travis. We expect the start to go ahead around 5 past the hour. So let's talk a little bit about the teams. Obviously, Andy and Santiago, incredibly strong towards the end of last season. They had a bit of a slow start to the season, it's fair to say, but they really, really picked up the pace and the practice towards the end. And that was just too much for Mariano and Valentina to keep their team and individual drivers' championship win hopes alive. Ian was strong all season long with his teammate. He's driving solo this season, by the looks of it. Is the driver for Liam. But I expect some good performances from him and definitely expect some improvements. Just based on his qualifying time, he is actually pretty close to Valentina. Eduardo and Wellington, very much improved. You can see how close the midfield qualifying times are here yet again. That is certainly promising for the Bank of Wayports, the new team that kind of replaces Interlink Argentina. And you've got Arthur, who is still, fair to say, learning the ropes. He was a newcomer to the season halfway through last season. So he has a lot of work to do to catch up to the rest, but showing good progress and under the 130s there. So definitely look out for him throughout the season and see how he improves. Travis, like I mentioned, you're new to the season. What is it you're looking forward to?
Well, I'm just looking at the times here. I'm looking forward to a pretty exciting race. Andy and Mariano, certainly a bit quicker than everybody else. Santiago not too far behind, so I feel like it'll be pretty competitive at the front. And then, as you said, it's tight here in the midfield. Valentina, Ian, Eduardo, Wellington, all there within a half second of each other. I feel like they'll give us some nice tight racing there in the midfield. We'll have lots to talk about. And Arthur, a little bit off the pace, obviously, but you've said he's improving. 29.92 isn't a bad time. It's not that far off the midfield. So he, it's interesting, like as a driver, when you're going around a track and you feel like you don't have the pace, that you do your best to focus and put in consistent lap times. And Arthur's right there. If anything goes wrong with a competitor ahead of him, as long as he's focused and as long as he's putting in nice clean laps, they don't have to be the quickest. He'll do pretty well. So I think we'll see a lot. We'll see a lot of good racing. We'll see good results out of everybody. This will be fun to watch.
Yep, you're not wrong. I am definitely looking forward to this. We have less than a minute to go before the lights go out for our 31-lap race. In fact, about 20 seconds to go. So yeah, we'll get ready for that. Queue up the drivers and hope for a good show. I really hope that we get some interesting battles because it is a longer format. Certainly, it's a bit of an increase from the 25-minute races we were seeing last time out. But yeah, here we go, Travis. 31 laps of Aston Club Reversed in Live for Speed. Here we go for Wayports Racing League Season 3. So here we are, all the drivers on the grid. You can see Vertex down the right and McLean Library down the left. Green as we go on our way. Andy with a very, very nice start there, it has to be said. Already gapping a little bit from Mariano. You'll need to get used to the new colours. Strings and Vertex pretty similar liveries. So Vertex running purple, McLean Library running the chili red. And already you can see that Andy is in the lead into turn 1. Eduardo's managed to get past Ian. Ian driving the black and yellow Lilium livery there. Eduardo in this rather fetching blue and white livery for Bank of Wayports. Up the front, Andy really. There's been a lot of talk between the season about Andy's driving and how it's gonna have to adapt for the longer format. He was notorious for burning his tyres towards the end of a 25-minute race in season 2, Travis. So he needs to keep his tyres alive for another 20 minutes. And yeah, could be tricky.
Yeah, and it shows here at the start too. Mariano's been taking, even in qualifying, Mariano's taking this very conservative line. As a car goes off in the background, looks like it was Valentina. I just saw the car. Santiago went off, but he's now back on. Looks like Valentina got ahead. I was saying that Andy took that very aggressive line into the chicane, really wide over the right side of the racetrack and out to the tires. And if he continues doing that during the race, then exactly what you said is going to happen. He's going to burn up tires. Mariano much more conservative. Now right alongside him, coming across the start-finish line, we've got 2 battles coming down to finish the first lap. These two, Andy and Mariano, side by side, and behind Ian and Valentina. Ian and Valentina trading positions in the background. Lots of racing going on in this first lap, Pete.
Yeah, this is getting pretty exciting already, and there's going to be contact here. Definitely, that's just a yeah. There we go. So Andy has gone side by side into turn 1. They've just come together. Ian's had a fantastic start up from P5 to P3, and Andy already on the back foot now as Mariano gave him the squeeze into turn number 1. Brilliant start from Ian. Eduardo and Santiago side by side. Santiago is a little bit. His starts aren't fantastic. He really needs to work on that. He's already lost a couple of places to drivers who he would like to be ahead of at this stage. But Andy has the most work to do at this point.
Yeah, it was a little bit scrappy by Mariano and Andy going into the first corner. A little bit tight, looked like it was fair, but then it's easy to forget this about front-wheel drive cars. Andy made a mistake once he was going sideways where he was on the brakes trying to stop the car when he should have gotten in the power to get the power of the front-wheel drive car to drag the car through the corner. Managed to gather it up. He's only 2 seconds back. He's got lots of time to make something happen here. But, as you said, he does need to take care of his tires. And it's already... I'm obviously new to this series, but it shows in the first lap here that he's more aggressive with the hardware than his competitors are.
Yeah, Mariano's definitely has a smooth driving style. Andy definitely more aggressive, and yeah, he needs to have a little bit more mechanical sympathy if he's going to last the 45 minutes.
He does. Behind them, Santiago is lurking behind. Oh, we just switched to Valentina. Looks like Valentina went off as further back, but Santiago, not making a move here, was in the slipstream right behind Ian. Not going to make the big send in the first corner. Ian gets a little bit wrong over the curb. Now goes wide. Oh, sliding the back of the car. It's really easy to slide the back of the car when the front tires grip up. They get lots of heat in them, as now we're looking at Wellington, who went off. You get lots of heat in the front tires, working the steering wheel pretty quickly. And then the rear tires don't heat up as much because they don't have, they don't have the power going through them. They don't have, there's not as much weight transfer to the rear wheels to heat them up. So it's really easy to slide the car in the first few laps until you get the heat in all the way around all 4 corners of the car. So lots of cars kind of slipping and sliding. Ian, a bit of a slide through the fast chicane there, but manages to keep it nice and tidy. Really close racing. This is fun to watch, Pete.
Yeah, the midfield is not disappointing so far, and we've got Santiago, who's managed to get past Eduardo at some point on the last couple of laps. He is right behind Ian. And yeah, Ian will be pretty happy with his position right now. He's had a podium in the first season of second season of Wayports Racing League, and I'm sure he'd quite like to keep hold of it for the inaugural race of season 3. But it looks like Santiago is going to try and get around him on this lap. We're heading on to lap 4 now. Santiago for Vertex, tucking into the slipstream of that black and gold Lilium car.
Yeah, he had a great run there, and it looked like he was going to go for it. Thought better of it. I saw him dab the brakes on the front stretch to slip in behind. It looks like he's thinking really hard about managing his race. He's not driving the car too hard, not trying to make big moves early. He's going to stick to Ian like gum on a sidewalk. He is right there, putting pressure on him. If it were me, I would want to get through, but it looks like he's happy to put pressure on Ian and force him into a mistake and just take the position and take care of his car while he's doing it.
Yeah, while we watch this onboard battle between Santiago and Ian, I want to bring to your attention the fact that Andy was about, well, just under half a second quicker in quali trim than Mariano, which means that expect him to start closing that gap down as we see Santiago getting
Sorry,
very
Pete.
wayward there.
Santiago's nearly lost it there. I was just saying that it looked like he was going to take care of the car, and then it looked like a mistake. I don't think he did this intentionally. It looked like he was way late on the brakes going into the chicane, and looked like it might stick, but then got it a bit sideways. Managed to collect it and is on his way now. He's got some work to do to get back on Ian's bumper.
Yeah, I'm interested in Andy's pace now. He's managed to keep this gap so low that he can follow in Mariano's wheel tracks. He's was about half a second faster on the last time around. Let's see what he is on this lap. The gap's holding pretty steady actually. So again, these two lapping at fairly. Oh, there we go. Another half second almost taken out of Mariano for Andy on that last lap. Andy currently has the fastest lap with that purple block that you can see in the timing tower. Matches his car, doesn't it, Travis?
It does. Patience is everything here. He's clearly got the pace. He just needs to take his time, work his way up onto the bumper, get right behind Mariano, just take his time. Now we're looking at Wellington, who has taken his pit stop, on his way now into the fast lane of pit lane. He's gone to the back. Arthur and Valentina have gone through. Wellington a bit of work to do. Oh, as we're watching Andy again, he's a little too aggressive into the chicane, gets the car sideways. That time he put the power down to straighten the car out, so he didn't lose too much time. But his tires are going to be getting awfully hot. That car is going to be really slippery, and Mariano will enjoy seeing this. Andy working the car a little bit too hard behind him.
Yeah, that's exactly what we expected to happen, to be honest. And yeah, it would be great if Andy can make his tyres last the whole race, because this is what we want to see at the front. The two season protagonists going wheel to wheel. They each have, well, Mariano has 2 season wins to his name. 1 season win to his name, and Andy also has 1. And who will make it best of 3 this season, I wonder? Right now, it's advantage Mariano.
It is. I'm looking at their tires. I just popped in to have a look at that in the simulator, and I expected Andy's front tires to be a little bit hotter than they are. They look pretty good. They're right in the green. Notably, Andy, with all of the sliding around, has gotten lots of heat into his rear tires, so he's got a pretty good balance of tire temperatures. That should work in his favor as long as he takes care of the fronts and he's less aggressive going into the corner and driving the car through the mid-corner.
Santiago and Ian are basically as close as the lead two are. We can't forget about this battle, but obviously we want to pay attention to the front because it's now less than a second again between the two leaders. 0.6 actually. Andy just with a slightly tighter line into the chicane that time, Travis, where he's been a little bit waywards on previous laps. But this is going to be good. If he can get the final corner right, he could have a run here.
Yeah, he looked really smooth through there. His line through the chicane looked really, really good. He's got a nice wide line into the hairpin here. Mariano went a little bit deep, and he takes as much of the inside of the track as he can. I don't know that the right side tires were actually touching the pavement. I couldn't see because we're on board with him on the stream, and I'm on board with him in the game. Looked like he might have backed out of it, or Mariano just got a much better exit, by not being on the grass.
Well, the tarmac's where all the grip is, and Andy was not on it, so that's why he was a bit slower out of there. But let's see, it's a long race. We're only on lap 7 now as they go across start finish. 31 laps this race, so yeah, it's a long one, but they're having fun out there for sure, which is good. I'm glad about that.
Looking back to Ian, bit bigger gap there now. Ian's front tires notably hotter than anybody else's, so he's worked hard to gain this position. Looks like he's working hard to keep this position. Got a little bit of a gap now so he can breathe, though he goes awfully deep into the first corner. He's dragging the brake on the right front. That accounts for all the heat that I saw in the front tire. Now there's even more. The right front tire boiling hot on the surface. Loses about half of that gap. Now he'll have to be really, really careful because the car these cars already want to understeer because all the weight is at the front of the car and all the power is at the front of the car. Now he'll have to tiptoe around to get those temperatures back into the proper operating range, while he's got to keep his competitors behind him as well.
Yeah, this has definitely moved from the realms of being a sprint race series to being a mid-length series. It's not quite the hour, it's not quite endurance racing, but it's certainly not sprint racing at this point. So the drivers really need to look after those front tyres, and Ian can't afford to be on the brakes through corners or fully on the throttle through corners because look, Santiago is right with him again.
Yeah, that was a really good angle from Mo, our producer and camera guy, where we could see down over the top of the car and see how much steering lock Ian was putting in. Full lock with the left tires, trying to get the car to slow down to steer into the corner. And all it's going to do, it's not going to give any more grip and make the car go faster through the corner. It's just going to boil off the surface of the tire. And that lets Santiago catch up. Now on his tail again, coming into the first corner. Santiago, the last time he was this close, made a bit of a mistake coming through the first corner and let the gap get away from him. If he's patient, I believe this position will come to him. He'll be on the podium. Oh, though he makes another mistake, goes deep in the corner, gets the big wobble, manages to collect it, just go over the gravel and the grass there and back on the road, but he gives up the position to Eduardo, who was sitting there patiently waiting to pounce. Now on his way in pursuit of Ian.
This is good stuff. I said it last season, but I think Eduardo is certainly one of the most improved drivers throughout the racing that we've seen over the last 20 or so races that we've been a part of this series. And here you go again. He's lurking in the back, and as soon as a driver makes a mistake, he's there, ready. As you see Santiago again, he's really going for it, isn't he? And there we go. It almost looks like they're drifting in tandem through that chicane.
It's really easy. Oh. We just switched because Andy is right on the tail of Mariano at the front, but we had cars alongside in the back. That mistake from Ian put Santiago, or the mistake from Eduardo put Santiago right on him again. Two very close races for first and second, and then third, fourth, and fifth. Andy not in contention right now, content to lurk behind Mariano. Takes the wide line over the curb. Mariano a little bit more conservative. Mariano gets the car slowed down without too much wobbling. Andy really on the ragged edge of grip behind him, but it's paying in time. He's a little bit closer coming out of the corner.
Yeah, you said it in your intro, Travis, about the track, but to the viewers, it might not look like a particularly technical track, but when you're bringing the XF GTI and Live for Speed down from its top speed to basically nothing at the two hairpins, it's really tricky to keep this thing pointing in a straight line, especially when your tyres get warm. And the addition of these chicanes just makes that all the more difficult. And you can see Andy really struggling for front grip here, or rather the rear letting go. And again, he loses more time.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Especially it seems like it would be easier as you get heat in the tires. And Andy had done, I mentioned this a minute ago, he had done a good job getting heat in the rear tires, though I don't know he had done it deliberately. He's been the back of the car has been wandering around so much underneath him. He's braking a bit late, trying to gain time in the braking zones. As we look in the background, behind Ian, we've got Eduardo and Santiago battling. Santiago looks really tight to the inside. Eduardo really wide around the outside. That's the sprint car racing line. You would think that's pretty slow, but he's come out of there quite a bit quicker. He's honking the horn, trying to presumably to force Santiago to mistake. Oh no, he's letting Santiago know he's there. Santiago didn't know he was out there.
Yeah, Santiago was the one on the horn, I think, but there we are, trying to keep Eduardo behind him with some friendly horn action, but they're going to be side by side for turn one. We've seen this before. Fingers crossed that you don't get any drama. Oh no, Eduardo on the brakes slightly earlier, using his brain there for sure, and yeah, cleanly through.
That was a clever move by Eduardo. He'd come across the racetrack to be right behind Santiago coming into the first corner, and then took the look to the inside. And you can do that to make your competitor ahead of you believe that you're going to send a flying pass, really late up the inside. But then he got on the brakes at precisely the right moment, the normal braking spot, and got Santiago to make a little bit of a mistake into the corner. Santiago unsettled the car a little bit, managed to collect it, but that's smart by Eduardo to play the mind games with his competitor, to try to force him into a mistake and take this position without having to really work hard for it. Just let his competitor move off out of the way so he can get on with his race. Loses a little bit of time there with a big slide into the chicane. Though both of his competitors ahead of him go wide, he keeps the car a little bit tighter.
Santiago's off on the grass. I mean, Santiago is he's falling back into some of the traits we saw from him in Season 2. He's fast over one lap, but his consistency really is letting him down at this point. He's going to get caught a little bit by Eduardo. We've got Arthur for Atrium in the pit lane. Arthur, one of the drivers who has switched to a different team name, unlike Ian, who wants to keep hold of his bundles tag for as long as possible. He is stopping for a long time.
Yep, sorry, Pete. Behind him, Santiago should see him coming by Arthur just now. Just passes Arthur in the pit lane and stops in his box. There we go. Now he's in a box.
Yeah, it's a long stop. He's probably putting some fuel in there. 16% fuel has gone into that little XFG. 5-second stop for Santiago. So a decent one. We expect similar lengths maybe from some of the other runners because they might consider adding fuel in their pit stops, starting the race with a lighter car and adding fuel midway through the race so you're not dragging around unnecessary amounts of fuel because you need to make a mandatory pit stop. After they're letting Santiago through.
So the gaps have shaken out a little bit now. I think we've got a second to breathe. I was saying a few minutes ago before the excitement picked up again that because of the way these cars work, with all of the weight at the front and all the power delivered to the front wheels, as we look at Wellington leaving the pits, he's back underway and on his way down the fast lane. He was in earlier, not sure. Yeah, not sure why he was in there again. We'll see if we can find some more information there. Because all the weight's at the front of the car, the brake bias. We put the brake bias all the way forward, something like 75 or 80% front brake bias, which means that the rear wheels aren't doing any of the work. So it's really easy to overdrive the car and get too hard on the brakes, and they're basically the rear wheels are doing no work. So you have to be really, really careful and really thoughtful about how you brake these cars, whereas it's much easier when the power is coming from the rear.
Yeah, you raise a good point. And someone who's really struggling with that front to rear balance is Santiago. He's in P6 after his stop. Got Valentina just up ahead of him there. And, it looks like what's happened here. I think Eduardo's gone into pits. While Eduardo's doing his pit stop, you can see that the lead battle has also come down. Mariano has only got a small gap now to Andy behind him. But yeah. At some point, Andy really wants to get past. I think he needs to get past and settle into a rhythm. But I think it may have been Mariano who made a mistake on this lap because that gap's come down significantly on this lap.
Yeah, that gap was about a second and a half. And Andy was really tight through the... I don't know if he caught it through the fast chicane. We just saw it after they had gotten through there. We're coming through the final corner. But now right there again. Andy sets a 24:37 on that lap. Not the fastest of the race, but pretty quick. But too aggressive into the first corner. He locked up the brakes, but he did it over the grass. So he'll have dirt on his tires and lose some time here, but he won't put the excessive heat in his tires. Debatable whether it's slower to heat up the tires and slide on the tarmac or to take the slow line through the grass, but
he went in too hot. Had too much wobble. Couldn't control the car under brakes. It is slightly tricky sometimes. But yeah, decided to go over the grass. It would have been a different story if he'd have been on the right-hand side of the track because the gravel is a lot more difficult to get out of than the grass. Anyway, here is Mariano. He's just, he's pumping in relatively consistent laps. He's definitely not got the outright pace that Andy has, but Andy just can't put a lap together at the moment. He just isn't being consistent. It looks like Santiago's just managed to get past Valentina. We just missed that on camera, but he's made a place.
Yeah, I just saw that myself. Valentina went a little bit deep into the first corner. Santiago took the normal racing line and just drove through nice and easy.
Yeah, these two, they have, I think it's safe to say they have a lot to think about. Definitely need to work out. Well, Andy needs to work out. See, he's done it again. He's braking a little bit late into the first corner, and he's spooking himself on the brakes. The rear of that car becoming very unsettled to the point where he has to completely, he's just almost panic steering into the first corner. Yeah, he's quicker around this track than Mariano. We've seen that in the qualifying. He currently still holds the fastest lap. He needs to make sure that he's consistently putting those laps in lap after lap if he wants to get past his main season, protagonist essentially. Ian's in the pits and he's out again. He's stopped for the shortest stop we've seen today, 1.9 seconds there or thereabouts. He rejoins in P3 just ahead of Santiago, who has also stopped. That's a close battle.
Yeah, I was about to speculate as he was coming into the pits that he might have just enough time to get out in front if he does a quick stop. And he did a proper stop and go. I don't know that he took any service at all and just manages to sneak out in front of Santiago. He's driven pretty consistently, though he's working those front tires much harder than his competitors are. If he stays consistent, he could keep this position. Santiago has been a little bit ragged behind him, as is Valentina. So as long as he stays consistent, he'll be good here. Nice and smooth through here, though. He had an awful lot of steering lock going into the left-hander, also into the right. Had to collect a big slide toward the side of the racetrack there, but Santiago did the same thing. Bit of a gap now coming into the last corner. Ian looks pretty good.
Yeah, we're approaching halfway in this race, Travis, and I have to say, given we've got 8 drivers, it's been pretty exciting, and it's going to get even more exciting. Look, Santiago's got a run. There's an exchange of horns going on again. We've seen that a lot of times in this race already. I think Santiago has found the horn button in Live for Speed, and he's enjoying it.
The horn button is one of my favorite buttons in Live for Speed because it's a way to communicate, it's a way to have fun, it's a way to express your disapproval. It's versatile, like some of the more colorful words in the languages we all speak. You could do a lot with the horn.
The horn and the headlights in LFS. As Ian has another bit of a wobble, and now we start to see the telltale signs of these longer races. The smoke pouring out of the back of Ian's car as his tyres cry for help and a little bit of relief. Yeah, Ian's going to have to develop his driving style a little bit throughout this season if he wants those tyres to last the race.
Yeah, he really does. He went wide there and started to slide, and he did the right thing by getting in the power, but he had too much steering lock on, so he just, like you said, he just started smoking the front tires. Rather than burning out with the rears and spinning into the wall, you can kind of point the car where you want to go in a weird front-wheel drive drift, but it burns off the tires really badly.
Yeah, Andy has gone into the pit lane, so he's decided to bail early. That's going to let Mariano sail off. 5 second stop for Andy, so quite long. But I really hope, and I hope this is the case, he's got a little bit of clear air in front of him now. I hope that because he hasn't got anyone ahead of him, maybe distracting him, that he can start to put in those consistent lap times that we began to see from Andy towards the end of last season. He does have one of the bank of Wayports cars ahead of him. I think that's Eduardo. But yeah, he needs to make the most of this now. He has got some clear track ahead of him.
You speculated early on that some drivers might take the full fuel load and just go in and out with the required stop. We saw that just a minute ago. Andy, one of the ones who decided to take fuel, doesn't look like he's done any other work. He certainly hasn't changed tires. There's no reason to in an event this short.
Wow, look at Ian. Look at Ian. He might have to change tires at some point if he keeps doing this. We rode on board with Ian just a few moments ago. Sorry, Travis, but the yeah, you could see that the steering inputs were just really too much for the corner, and the tires were screaming. You don't want the tires to scream. If the tires are screaming, you're pushing too hard. It's a telltale sign.
That's exactly right. You do not. Mariano in the pits now. We'll look for Andy to see where he slots in.
Oh, here we go. It's going to be a similar strategy to Andy. It is. So there's going to be pretty close. Let's see how good Andy's outlap was. Mariano's 0.2 faster, yeah.
Mariano just passed the pit exit line now. They're going to be side by side coming into the corner. There goes Wellington, the lapped car through, and Andy is going to be right on Mariano's tail coming into the braking zone. Really tight.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be maybe some contact there, but there we go. Andy again, a little bit spooked on the brakes, and that just affects his corner exit. Mariano was inches ahead of him as they braked, and now there's a few car lengths between them. So Andy just needs to take it a little bit easier into turn one, and I think he could tighten up his lap times. Armchair commentary. This is what this is, Travis. Giving the drivers tips.
That's right. I don't know how the LFS usernames line up with the actual drivers' names, but there is someone, I'm going to guess it's Santiago or Ian.
Here we go.
Goes off ahead of these two. Andy looks to the outside, gets a little bit, I think both of them were spooked by the car going off ahead, and Andy just ducked to the outside. He's going to take the wide line around this track. Wellington trying to stay out of the way. I don't know that Wellington knows these two are here. Manages to get to the outside of the racetrack. They're through cleanly, but Andy is now alongside right on the quarter panel. Decides to tuck into the slipstream, look to the outside. Andy and Mariano, really tight race coming down to the line here. Andy would be better served by tucking in again to get the slipstream. He does. We'll have a good race into the first corner here, Pete.
Yeah, this is quite remarkable. We're on lap 18 of 31, and we've got a lead battle that is, well, it's anyone's game. This happened on lap 1. Let's see if they can make it clean this time. Andy brakes slightly later. Mariano being a little bit conservative. Andy's going to go deep. Oh, they're going to be side by side again.
That line by Andy into the corner looked so good with that head-on camera shot. Him going over the curb, the car wasn't wandering really badly, and it looked like he was as late on the brakes as he could be and got the car slowed down and then just went a little bit deep and wide. But now he's right behind Mariano again. This is a good race into the fast chicane. A dangerous place to pass. We'll see if Andy decides to try it or thinks better of it. Right on Mariano's bumper, looking to the outside. That won't do at all. Mariano defends the inside line. Andy's going to try to do it.
Oh, good
they
attempt around the outside.
Just missed touching there. Really good racing from these two.
Yeah, fantastic. I like the the audacity of Andy to try it around the outside into that chicane. It's not a move you would ever normally see in the other racing scenes in Live for Speed, but good on Andy for having a go. It didn't quite work out on this time. So, he'll have to try and find another way through. Valentina's in the pits.
Andy's got the bit between his teeth. He was he tried that really audacious move around the outside there, managed to slip in right behind Mariano without collecting each other, and then he took a really nice clean line through the final corner, got a good run out of it. I think he'd lost most of the time. There's a bit of a gap between them now. He lost most of that time in the chicane. Now he's got it all to do again. He's got the pace. He just needs to settle down a little bit. Be a little bit more consistent into these braking zones. He sent it hot into the first corner again, but gets it slowed down beautifully onto the curb there. Perfect line through the first corner, right where he needs to be on the brakes. Gathers up probably 2 or 3 tenths in that first corner alone.
Yeah.
If he can do that every lap, he will easily have Mariano here. Andy has the pace. He just needs the consistency.
Do that another 10 times, Andy, and you'll have this race in the bag, mate. I was just looking at the timing tower, and we've got a pretty big void between P2 and P3. This is the pace that the leaders are on here. They are less than a second between them, and there's 28 seconds between Andy and his teammates. So this just shows you the caliber of the front two in the championship. Yeah, I wonder if they're going to have a challenger as Andy sends it into the final corner, and Mariano makes contact. Andy did run a bit deep, but this is going to hurt Andy. He needs to get the car out of the gravel. He doesn't want to drive into the gravel. Oh, this could be the race-deciding incident there. He was just a bit too hot into the final corner, Travis.
Yeah, awfully aggressive into that corner. I don't know that he intended. I mean, I suppose he could have. I don't know that he intended to make that big a lunge that late. It looked like he just missed his braking point while he was looking at the car ahead of him. It's really easy to do that. When you're focused on the car ahead and you want to get that position, it's easy to miss your marks around the racetrack. But that was a tight race within a second of each other, the gap bouncing around half a second. And now he's got a lot of work to do. He'll be 10 seconds back, 8 seconds back now. I think he's probably fast enough to close that gap, but he really needs to focus on the consistency. It's less about the lap time here and more about making sure that he doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah, 12 laps to go. Based on his pace in qualifying, if he can do qualifying laps from here to the end, I reckon he could do it. But it's a tall order, especially in race conditions. But yeah, I think Mariano he took a wider line. He obviously knew that Andy had gone for it and made contact with the rear panel of Andy as Andy came across. Not really a lot Mariano could do, without driving off the track himself, really. So yeah, that one is on Andy, I have to say, from my opinion. But there we go. As he goes through the chicane again, he needs to navigate this back marker, Travis, and then set his eyes on the road in front and try and close that gap.
Yep, he does. He just needs to focus on consistent laps, even if they're a little bit slower. He's got to brake a little bit earlier. He's got to turn in a little bit less aggressively, and that adds up in tenths and hundreds here and there. But he knows he's so much quicker than Mariano. Earlier in the race, he was setting race laps faster than Mariano's qualifying lap, so he's able to do Mariano's qualifying pace during the race without driving so aggressively. He's got to collect his thoughts and get on with his race and do it as cleanly as possible. Hearing now that Arthur has dropped out, we got just one car, Wellington, off the lead lap. Everybody else on the lead lap. Not sure what happened to Arthur.
Yeah, he was on the outside. What's happened there? We've lost another driver. Who's that? We've just lost Eduardo out. Okay, so not sure what's happened there.
Yeah, not sure what happened to Eduardo. He reset I saw him. We saw him. Yeah, we saw him coming out of the garage right there next to Wellington. That could have been a little bit scruffy between teammates with him coming out of the pits with his teammate in the pit spot right in front of him.
So Arthur pulled off of the track at the exit of the final corner. He ran out of fuel, so he made a pit stop, but he didn't add enough. So that's another element to season 3 that the drivers really need to work on. They need to make sure that they have enough fuel to survive the race, because some of them have only made 20 laps. It's quite easy to calculate. The game will give you the average fuel that you use of around the track as you're going. So you can do a few practice laps, gauge how much fuel you're using, multiply that number by the number of laps, and that's your fuel load that you need for the race. So yeah, the drivers just need to make sure that they've got this sorted out before they head to round 2. Hopefully, the leaders have done all their prep and they have no issues with that. But yes, Arthur retired at the final corner. He has since rejoined Eduardo 2, which is a shame because he was doing quite well.
Watching Andy go around now, and he's looking really quick, a little bit smoother than he has been. But Mo's excellent cameras revealed something very interesting going into the last corner. We've got that nice shot down over the top of the car, so you can see how the tires are working. And Andy was locking the rear tires going into the final corner. He's got the brake bias a little bit too far backwards. So we talked earlier about how the brake bias, you put it far forward in this car so that you can slow the car down with all the power and all the way to the front. But if you want to put as much bias to the rear as you can, so the rear tires are doing something. But he's got it a little bit too far back, so those rear tires are locking when he's at threshold braking going to these corners, and that makes it even more difficult to slow the car down. He'll have to be a little bit more ginger on the brakes. He doesn't have, he won't be able to use the brakes, get the maximum efficiency out of them. And if he goes in a little bit too deep, the car will really want to wander because there's no grip at the rear tires at all. He's kind of on the ragged edge of performance of this car right here. He'll have to be really cautious. But even so, he's managing it. He's pulled a second on Mariano in front. He's got another 8 laps to get the job done. He's got time and he's got pace. I would like to see him do it and have a really exciting finish here.
Yeah, Mariano's just going into turn 1, or out of turn 1 rather. The gap was up to almost 9 seconds a few laps ago. I think Andy may have made a mistake as he makes again really, really deep into turn 1. He needs to tighten this line up to the end of the race. No improvement there in that last sector. In fact, Mariano managed to move ahead slightly and open that gap up. So yeah, it's looking like Mariano's got this one in control. His consistency is there in the race once again, and Andy has he's slipped a little bit this race.
It is, and it's easy when your competitor falls by the wayside behind you and you've got a big gap. Then it's really easy to get your head in the right place, where you can slow down a little bit and put in consistent laps, even if the driver behind you is typically much quicker than you are. You've got enough buffer that you can take it easy and manage the car. Andy's in a different place entirely, where it's really easy as a driver when you're trying to catch somebody ahead of you and you're driving around the racetrack and there are spots on the racetrack where you can go really quick, you can sail the car in deep on the brakes and you can get on the power early. It's really frustrating to have to manage a car and not be able to go that quick when you can because you've done it before. And I think that's where Andy is right now, is he knows the car can go quicker, but he's frustrated. They're not accustomed to doing this long race like you talked about earlier, Pete. It's not a sprint race. It's kind of between a sprint race and an endurance race. So he just has to calm down a little bit. He's found another 2/10, another 10th now on the leader. That won't be enough. He'll need a mistake from Mariano, or he'll need to start setting qualifying laps with the consistency that Mariano's doing out front. But it's not impossible. He could still get there. He's just got to settle down a little bit, set consistent laps.
Yeah, the gap is getting close to 7 seconds, but yeah, the laps are certainly counting down. Mariano is doing a really good job here. By his own admission, he's not the fastest at this track, but it doesn't matter. His consistency, and we talk about this week in, week out in Wayports Racing League, consistency is key in racing, and even more so this season with the longer races that we're going to see. The 45-minute format is definitely going to favour Mariano's driving style right now.
It really is, and now that he's got that breathing room behind him, he's really, really smooth. He's rolling into the brakes. He's using less steering input. He's nice and smooth everywhere. Though perhaps he's relaxed a little bit too much. 7/10, 5/10, about half a second have come off that gap. Andy has not given up. I think Mariano still has enough of a buffer, but now if he's looking at the gaps, if he's looking at the times, this is the calculus that the driver in the lead has to apply. How much time do I have to the car behind me? How hard can I drive? Another second off. Andy's gotten it down to 6.3 seconds as Eduardo is beached.
Yeah, Andy's gone a bit deep into turn 1 again. Eduardo's just chilling there. He's been there a while. I think he's just enjoying the sand, to be honest. Andy, you can see the gap there to Mariano is coming down and down. It's 6.3 seconds. We'll get an update just after this first chicane. Well, second chicane, should I say. There are technically 3 chicanes on this track. Here he comes up to one of the timing lines that gives us the live, or one of the more accurate gap numbers that we end up getting. And yeah, a tiny bit more shaved off there, 0.03.
Nice and smooth through here. That will help. He's been driving it really hard over the curbs into that chicane and going off in the grass. That time he kept it inside the white line, which is exactly what you want to do.
Yeah, Mariano is the next car that Andy can now see. The 2 McLean Library teammates are close on track, but it is in fact Mariano who will be looking to put a lap over Valentina, his teammate, as they head on to lap 26, although Valentina is just heading on to lap 25 of her race. And here he comes.
This is where in the higher levels of competition, when you're Mariano, you really like to see this. If you have a teammate on track ahead of you, especially a teammate who's a lap behind, you know that your teammate is watching you. You're in communication with each other. Your teammate will get out of the way so you can get on with your race, and then can be a little bit of a nuisance to the cars chasing behind you. Down to 5.5 seconds. Andy found a full second on the last lap.
Yeah, 3/4 of a second faster. And a new fastest lap of the race for Andy there. Yeah, this is doable still. He needs to do that lap every lap now. Mariano does have some traffic. It is his teammate who he would hope would move out of the way, but we've seen things happen in Wayports in the past. Doesn't always go the simple way.
Yeah, I have to believe they're talking to each other, and Valentina is ready to let Mariano through, and then pester. Obviously, a lapped car, even if you're trying to help your teammate, you don't want to impede a chasing car behind, because that's a bit naughty. But Valentina will try to be a little bit of a nuisance, perhaps make Andy a bit nervous, and make the race as easy as possible for Mariano.
Yeah, we've got a car going in the pits ahead. I think that looks like who is that going in the pits? It is Arthur for Atrium, who has some damage. He's heading in the pits for another pit stop by the looks of it. But let's see, 5.49 was the gap at the split, and it looks like Andy is going to take more than a second off of Mariano. He's taken more than a second, 1.1 seconds off Mariano that lap. This is still doable for him.
It really is, and he looked really good into the first corner at the ragged edge of grip. The back of the car sliding, but he managed to slow it down. He got it, over the right side curbing, and that it's kind of a chicane if you're coming through the different configurations of the track. But aggressively over the curbs to slow the car down, and nice and tight to the hairpin. Maybe he's listening to us, maybe he's not, but he's found the consistency. It's showing in these lap times.
Yeah.
Really, this is a great onboard shot.
Wow.
Tight over the left, tight over the right, nice and smooth, not sliding. He's going to go all the way out to the white line. That is a perfect line through that corner. Mariano a little bit more conservative. You can see that ahead of him. Andy's going to go all the way out to the curb here, and he needs to be smart. He needs to get the car slowed down.
Valentina moves out of the way.
No!
Valentina moves.
Mariano.
That was Valentina.
Oh, that was Valentina.
Yeah.
Sorry. Ooh, thank you, Pete. My
No
voice
worries.
of reason.
Yeah, you were getting excited. I was wondering if I was wrong, but yes, no, that was Valentina.
Well, I was still in the mindset that Valentina might be a bit of a nuisance for Mariano, but dutifully got out of the way. Very, very polite. Now Andy able to take that position easily and off in pursuit. Less than 4-second gap now, Pete.
I think it might go up slightly. Andy was a bit preoccupied with honking at Valentina through there. Oh, I'm wrong. I'm very much wrong. The gap has come down even more. 3.4 the gap. Andy's gone a bit hot into turn 1. He has got the car slowed down. Where was this driving earlier, Andy? Where was it? We love it.
It's worked out for us. It might be a bit frustrating for him because he has to chase this rabbit ahead of him, but we're really enjoying it. So I couldn't be more pleased. I couldn't be more pleased with his driving at this point in the race.
Yeah, we need more of it. We need him to take a second out every lap. It looks like he's on track. Let's see what the gap is at the split. You can see that those few pixels ahead of Andy getting well, turning into more pixels, should we say. 3.1 seconds now, the gap.
Oh,
And
he's
look at
done
this
that
line. It's
chicane
fantastic.
beautifully. He went really wide out to the right side of the track. There's a little bit of dirt and gravel next to the tire barrier on the right side. He just touched it, but got the car in, slowed down the middle of the corner. He's tight to the apex here. He's going to take a nice broad line out over the curbs on the right. He's found it. He's figured it out, and it's
Travis,
it's paying dividends.
Andy's turned up to the race. He's here. He's arrived.
I love this.
See.
These kind of races are so fun. Fast cars, Formula One cars, XFGs, like all the cars. Like a good race like this, it doesn't matter what car it is or what drivers it is. Like, these are so fun to watch.
I don't think the gap came down as much there. It was a PB for Mariano, only 0.03 in this last sector. But it doesn't matter. Andy's still got the pace. Oh, he's gone wrong. It's gone wrong. It's turn one. He's gone on the gravel. He's on the grass. He needs to get it out of there. That could be it. That could be it, Travis.
Yeah, I think you're right. It could be, though. Like, visually, we're still following this on board from Andy. It doesn't, like, visually, it doesn't look like he lost a whole lot. I wonder if Mariano made a mistake too. Now that we switch camera shots, I can't see as well. Yeah, he lost a full second there.
Yeah,
still
that wasn't good.
Not out of the realm of possibility, but looking awfully improbable now.
Yeah, that is a mighty shame. It looked like we were on for a grandstand finish, but I think Andy, he got a little bit excited, and he's put the car in the beach at turn one, and no such drama for Mariano as he comes around the final corner to start the penultimate lap of Wayports Racing League Season 3, Round 1 of 10. Again, we have a lovely 10-round package this season, but it does look like, if things stay as they are, that Mariano will take the inaugural win of Season 3, although anything can happen in Wayports Racing League. We say that every single race. Don't count my chickens before they hatch. Lap 30 registered for Mariano there. Good to go.
Yep, and he's gotten on with it. He's still nice and smooth, nice and conservative over that odd chicane into the hairpin. I don't know that I would call it a chicane into the first corner of the Aston Club reverse track. It's a bit of a wonky hairpin is what I will call it. But nice and conservative through there. You can see the gap is about the same. Andy's brought it down a little bit, but Mariano's got plenty of a buffer there. Andy not giving up. That gap was up to nearly 5 seconds after his mistake on the previous lap, now down to 4.2, but I think this is going to be just out of reach, bar a pretty egregious mistake by Mariano.
Yeah, he's throwing everything at it, but I think it's going to be interesting when we head to the Wayports interviews. You can see he's throwing everything at it, that he's using the grass there, but the laps are just ticking down, and this is going to leave a sour taste in Andy's mouth, I think. And he'll have to review this race, review the stream, the broadcast, and find out just where he went wrong and where he can find that pace on Mariano going into round 2, because it will be advantage Mariano. Here we go, 1 lap to go. Across the line comes that wonderful chili red / pink, whatever you want to call it, number 13 of Mariano. Obviously, Mariano isn't running the number 1. That's reserved for Andy this season. There we go. You can see it on the back of his car. He is the reigning Wayports Racing League Drivers' Champion. But for how much longer?
Yeah, just in chat there as they were coming through the first corner, Valentina set a personal best and got a nice smiley reaction from Mariano. So apparently Mariano feels comfortable enough with his lead that he's able to send friendly chat messages to his teammate. So that's nice to see. He was really conservative into the first corner, rolled into the brakes really easily. Take a nice conservative entry into the chicane here, though he's gone a bit wide around the curbs there. He'll go over the curbs on the right. He looks really clean through the chicane. Bar an absurd mistake into the final corner here, which it looks like he's not going to do because he's in the brakes now with plenty of time to make this corner. Mariano is going to take the win. A little bit wide here, but plenty of time to Andy behind him. He's off on his way to win the first event of this season. Pete, take it.
Yeah, so Andy got pole position. Andy, unless Mariano can pull something out of the bag, will take the fastest lap as well, which means that the lead in the championship for Wayports Racing League Season 3 will be as close as it possibly can, but it will be Mariano who is on the top step of the podium and the top step of the Drivers' Championship. because he has taken an emphatic win here today in Season 3, round number 1. And it will be a short wait for the rest of the drivers. We have a big gap between the top two, 3.1 seconds in the end, Travis. That's a good effort from Andy, but yeah, he's going to have some questions to ask of his driving after that one.
Yeah, he really will. He has the pace. He's clearly talented. When he's on, he is able to drive the car perfectly where he needs to be on the racetrack. He's in the brakes where he needs to be. He's on the power, but just a little bit too aggressive in some places. Needs to be a bit more thoughtful and conservative. But he looks really good. I think he's certainly a contender for this championship. He's just got to be a little bit more patient, a little more careful. His teammate comes across the line to take third. Santiago crossing through now, 45 seconds behind the leaders. A good podium, second and third for Andy and Santiago. And we'll look for the other drivers to come through and round out the order.
Yeah, Santiago came across the line with his horn at full blast. He clearly has found the horn button and is enjoying that today. Ian for not bundles, Ian for Lilium comes across the line in P4. Valentina for McLean Library P5. Wellington in P6. And then it's just a case of waiting for Arthur and Eduardo to come around. Here comes Arthur for Atrium across the start-finish line. And yeah, there we go. 21 laps down in the end, but that's just because he had to rejoin. Eduardo will not finish by the looks of it. I think he's still parked in the gravel at turn 1, but he will be classified, of course, on our results, or maybe we'll have a look. So here we go, Travis. Before we head to the interviews for today, the final classification of the results are Mariano for McLean Library, winning in 44 minutes and 28 seconds, 0.3. Andy for Vertex, 3.1 seconds off in the end after a bit of a yo-yo race, it has to be said, settling for P2 in the end. Santiago, 45 seconds off the leaders in P3, will round out our podium for today. Then it's Ian for Vertex, Valentina for McLean Library, Wellington for Bank of Wayports, Arthur for Atrium, and Eduardo there, classified 30 laps down for Bank of Wayports in P8. Sorry, Ian for Lilium there. So Andy for Vertex gets the fastest lap, a 1 minute 24.11, and that was a PB during the race for him. Quite a lot of drivers setting PBs during the race. Travis?
Yeah, everybody looked really good. Mistakes here and there, which is normal in any race, really. A bit of a shame for Eduardo because he had a great start and was looking really consistent. Just kind of watching his competitors do the shuffle back and forth as they made mistakes, and then off later in the race. I believe it was him spending some time just watching cars go by in his chase lounge there in the Turn 1 beach. A good effort from Ian. Ian was really consistent. A great finish for him, well clear of Valentina behind. Would have been about 30 seconds with the lap times are setting, 20 seconds or so. Really exciting race. I'm excited to see more from Andy, this battle of Andy and Mariano at the front. Andy has the pace, needs the consistency. Mariano got the job done exactly the way he needed to. Got in front, managed the race, probably knew that Andy was a little bit ragged behind him, and came home to take a really good win.
Yep, absolutely. We're going to take a quick break here while we set up for the interview stage. So go and grab a cup of tea, and we'll be back in just a moment's time. Hello and welcome back to Wayports Racing League Season 3 for the interview stage in Wayports. We have Mariano here with us. Mariano, congrats.
Hello. Thanks. Yay. Finally, right?
Yeah, so Wayports Racing League Season 3, the new season is well underway. Looked like you had fun out there with Andy nipping at your heels for the whole race. Eventually you managed to keep ahead.
Yeah, that was really fun. I mean, it's always like that with Andy. It's touch and go. He had the pace. I was very lucky. I was just resisting his moves there to try and overtake. But you saw there was, so I did muscle my way in the first one. The second one, I'm not so sure. He kind of he came over. He just extended his braking point, and then I was also braking more to avoid hitting him. And at some point I was okay, we're gonna get on with that turn, but then he kept going wide, so then we had contact and he spun. But you saw how he came back really fast.
Yeah, we thought at one point towards the end he was actually going to manage to get you. It was taking chunks and chunks of time out of your out of your race, but in the end, just too many mistakes into turn one for Andy this time. So, can you talk us through the new name of the team?
Sure. We race for the McLean Library. The McLean Library is actually over there, and here you can actually see it. It's right on the ground plaza from Wayports, and so it's also the website where we publish all the articles and news from the community. And so it does have that social function, the same as in real life for us, in that the McLean Library will always be a free space within Wayports. Nobody has to pay anything to use it, and people can give talks or go in there and work with other people. So it's really cool. I love it. It's something that we're doing now as well to do publishing, to publish books. So yeah, every team represents an entity within Wayports.
That's excellent. So it really is integrated. So yeah, Interlink France is no more, and you're now driving for McLean Library, which we like the livery of that one, don't we, Travis?
Travis. All right.
Yeah, he likes that. So yeah, Andy, can we get Andy in for an interview, Mariana? You can stay out here and chat with us. Hey, Andy.
Andy.
Can we hear Andy?
Hello.
Hi, yeah, I'm here. Hello.
So we were commenting on how your race was going, and it was positive to begin with until we got to turn one. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I have a lot of aspects in this race, positive and of course negative. Yeah, it was a lot of fun racing and challenging with Mariano each and every lap till the incident. Okay, I knew the risk was high, and I just tried, and with 10 seconds behind him, there was no way but do about 10 or 12 qualifying laps. And that cost me in turn one all the risk and too many errors in turn one, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, Travis was commenting for most of the race that when you didn't have any traffic ahead of you, your consistency was pretty good. As soon as there were any other cars around, it looked like you got maybe a little bit distracted by them. Can you comment on that and how you managed to catch up to Mariano quite drastically, but just couldn't get past in the end?
Yeah, I think it was only being cautious because you don't know what people do in turns. Do they see you, or are they obstacles? So I was just a little bit cautious. Yeah, and the laps where I could lower the gap, they were of course brilliant for me. But with that many mistakes, there's no chance.
Well, it certainly was a good race to watch for us. 45 minutes of racing, that's a lot more than season 2. How has your approach changed with the 20 extra minutes of racing you have to do each race now?
Yeah, it's completely different to race with that long distance because you have to watch your tire temperatures, and you can't do the moves that you did in season 2. Maybe that's one reason we have those long races now. But it's absolutely brilliant, and you have the chance to do fast laps when you have a mistake and close the gap. And the race was fantastic. I love that chasing him and having the pace. But okay, I was not lucky like he was in season 2. To be honest, he had much bad luck in season 2. So congrats, of course, Mariano. That was brilliant.
Thanks.
It was excellent for us to watch too. Can we grab a word with Santiago as well? Could you?
Yeah, he's right behind.
You two can stay here, and we can have a word with Santiago. Here he comes. Santiago.
Hi everybody.
How you doing?
Nice to see you.
You had probably one of the most interesting races, actually.
Yeah, of course. I really enjoyed the battle with Ian. It was pretty fun, really. And on the first half, I was switching positions with everybody.
Yeah, so you went down and then you went up again, and you managed to secure a podium. So that's 2 Vertex cars on the podium. So starting a good campaign for your new team. Talk us through Vertex if you can.
I can take this one. I can take this one. So Vertex is the brand for the classrooms. So there's another building over there, down there in the campus, and there's that building is Vertex. That is where classes will be held. It's not fully open yet, but we're building the classrooms. You know that will be. So it's part of that education effort along with the McLean Library. So these two gentlemen next to me drive for Vertex classrooms. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I love the logo for it, and I certainly love the you're carrying over the purple liveries for your team.
Right.
Makes it easy to spot for sure. So yeah, what's the 45-minute race format like for you, Santiago? Are you enjoying the longer format?
Well, my fingers are tired, but I really enjoy it. I have to say that the first half was pretty fun, but then it became a lonely race.
And pace for the next race.
Yeah, I have to train a lot more. I didn't train as much as I usually do, so I have to take that.
Yeah. Do we have any words for Ian, who decided to run the bundles name this week?
No, actually, Ian had to leave early. He apologized for not making it out to the interview.
No worries. I found it quite funny that he was holding on to his old team name with for dear life there. Anyway.
Right, that's funny because he drives for Lilium, and Lilium is the cryptocurrency of Wayports, and he's the lead engineer behind that. So I'm pretty sure he has more love for Lilium than he does for bundles, and that was probably just a mishap there.
Can we have a word with Valentina? Is she around?
Sure. I mean, yeah, she's right there. Let me see. I'll wave at her.
Wave at her.
There she comes.
Hey, Valentina, can you hear us?
Valena, you here?
From the right. Anyone can hear Valentina?
Hello. Yeah,
Ah,
can
there
you
we
guys
go.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, you were saying?
Yeah, talk us through your race. A bit up and down, but in the end, P5.
Yeah, it was a bit of a struggle. I didn't expect that accident I had. I had a bit of a contact with Wellington, and I was facing the wrong way. I was left facing the wrong way. And I started to, yeah, of course, I freaked out. And instead of just trying to turn, I just like kind of redid my car. How do you call that?
Reset.
Restore your car. Reset my car. And so I was facing the right direction, and yeah, but I was left in the last position there, and yeah, not very cool. I am quite happy, to be honest, with my lap times and how consistent I was, but I wish that didn't happen to me, because I think I could have made it to, I don't know, maybe struggle with a bit more with Santiago and Ian as well. I think I would have been up a bit of that. So I hope it's the case on the coming races.
Great, and I've asked everybody else this question, but the 45-minute race format, are you a fan of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody had a great race, but if it didn't, I think it would have been a great opportunity for me to kind of get a better position. I was not lucky because there were no more contacts, or like people didn't make any mistakes. But I think if they did, like if we maybe race in a more challenging track, maybe it could be the case that with the extra minutes I could maybe to a better position. Yeah, really enjoyed it. But my fingers are also, I guess it's getting used to it, but my fingers are kind of tired as well. So I need a bit of practice with that as well, with the length of the race. But yeah, definitely very fun.
Good stuff. A question to everybody then. Fern Bay Green on August 14th. Are we looking forward to it? Sorry, West Hill National next on August 7th. Are we looking forward to that one?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I need more practice. But yeah.
West Hill National is definitely a more complicated track, so maybe a few more incidents there.
Yeah, I really enjoy that track. I don't know, Andy, how you feel about that, but that's a good one. Especially that second turn. Second turn, was it?
Second turn, the down.
Oh yeah, I like it too. Yeah, that would be a great battle. And I hope Santiago will do some practice and
Santiago's
come back
fast.
strong, very strong.
Yeah. I love Fernway Green, so when you said Fernway Green, I was like, oh, is it? I'm excited.
Yeah, that's round 3. Yeah.
Yeah, that's round 3, exactly. Yeah, and very, very looking forward to that one. That's one of my favorite tracks.
Yeah, good. Vernbay was pretty popular with all the drivers last time, if I recall.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we'll wrap up the interviews here, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
All
thank
right, see
you.
ya.
Great one.
Take care.
Woohoo! Good pass. Good race.
Yeah.
So there we are, Travis. The end is of the interviews are done, and we will be, well, signing off for today.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun to call. I enjoyed hearing from everybody there at the end of the race. Like a lot of really great attitudes. I enjoy hearing some honesty about their own assessments about their driving. You don't often get that from racing drivers. Everybody, I think, was pretty clear that they made a few mistakes. I enjoyed hearing from Valentina how she was happy with her lap times. That's really key to improve as a driver is to be consistent, be happy with your performance, and build on that. So this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me, Pete. This is I look forward to the rest of the season.
Good stuff. Thanks for joining me, Travis. And as you can see, and as we talked about in the interviews, West Hill National is the next track for us on August 7th next week at 1 o'clock UTC for 60 minutes of qualifying. Alrighty. We hope to see you there for the second round. Travis, all that's left to say is have a good day and see you next time.